Imagine waking up with an inexplicable feeling that you've lived it before, even though your current life doesn't give any clear clues to explain that impression. It's like a part of you carries memories that don't fully belong to the present, stirring curiosity about what happens beyond what we can see. Some people believe this feeling comes from past life experiences, and that subtle signs can indicate our story began long before the day we were born. Many feel this inner calling and seek to understand why they face certain fears, why they meet some people who seem so familiar, or why some everyday events evoke memories that don't fit the logic of now. If you also want to understand these signs, maybe it's time to pay attention to the possibilities that reincarnation presents to us. For many, the idea of reincarnation seems strange or distant, but it appears in various cultures and spiritual traditions. Some view it as a natural cycle where the soul learns different lessons over many existences. In another part of the world, some interpret reincarnation as a process where the spirit evolves, returning multiple times to improve. These views may seem different, but they share a common thread, the belief that we are not just this body we inhabit now. And when you start to dig deeper, you realize that certain experiences can take on new meanings when viewed through the lens of past lives. One aspect that stands out is how reincarnation can shed light on seemingly inexplicable events. For instance, have you ever thought about why some people have such specific fears that don't make much sense in the current context? Why would someone, from a very young age, have a huge fear of fire or closed spaces without ever having gone through a trauma to justify it? In many accounts, fears or phobias that seem to have no cause might be linked to some intense experience that happened at another point in existence. It's like the soul carries emotional memories. When something here triggers that memory, the feeling of fear or panic arises, even if the rational mind can't explain it. There are stories of people who have always had a paralyzing fear of water and ended up discovering a possible connection to a drowning that happened in a supposed past life. There are also those who can't enter very tight spaces because they feel a desperate suffocation, and in therapy sessions, memories arise of being trapped in an environment that posed a risk. These narratives may sound fantastic, but for those who feel the fear, the experience is very real and cannot be simply ignored. So, when you understand that reincarnation suggests a continuity of spiritual learning, it makes sense to admit that we could carry emotional scars from other existences. Even though this isn't scientifically proven, it's undeniable that many people find relief in interpreting their desires from this perspective. If you're interested in understanding more about spirituality and don't want to miss discussions like this, it's worth staying connected to this space of exchange, so you can explore perspectives that are usually not presented in regular circles. Sometimes, a simple additional piece of information can make a difference when it comes to understanding certain internal experiences. Another factor that often intrigues those interested in reincarnation is déjà vu. This feeling of having lived the same scene in another place or time can be quite disconcerting. You're chatting with someone, look at an object nearby, and suddenly feel like you've seen it all before, almost as if it's a memory. Many people attribute déjà vu to memory slips, moments when the brain confuses the present with random fragments. But there are consistent accounts of people having déjà vus accompanied by a deep certainty that there's something more than just a mental glitch. In some cultures, déjà vu is seen as a glimpse of past memories, almost like a spark that escaped from the unconscious and suddenly surfaced. Imagine, for example, traveling to a city you've never been to, but as soon as you step onto a specific street, you have a vivid feeling that you know every detail of that place. You know there's no reason to feel familiar, yet you can't shake the conviction that that scenario is part of you. There are accounts of people who even foresaw the existence of an alley or a building that would be around the corner, without any map, because they felt they remembered that space. When you hear these kinds of stories, the idea of a connection to previous lives becomes an explanation that, while not strictly proving anything, at least gives some sense to these extraordinary experiences. And it's not just fears and feelings of déjà vu that spark interest in reincarnation. There are also talents and skills that appear without explanation. Think of someone who, from a young age, shows a special gift for playing a musical instrument or speaking a language that doesn't exist in their home environment. Many attribute this type of talent to a natural gift, but the reincarnation perspective points to the possibility that the soul brings knowledge acquired in past lives, which ends up blossoming when finding the right conditions. There are cases of very young children who, upon seeing a piano for the first time, intuitively understand how to produce chords without having been taught. While there are various theories about brain development and genetic predispositions, some feel that the spiritual explanation for these phenomena is quite coherent, especially when there's no prior stimulus that justifies such ease. In Eastern cultures, this idea is more acceptable. There are records of children who seemingly remember ancient traditions, can sing songs that aren't part of their current context, or even reproduce writing styles that haven't been taught by the adults around them. As they grow, some lose these memories, while others retain strong traits of personality and talent. For those who believe in reincarnation, all this proves that the soul doesn't arrive blank at birth. It carries a baggage that, at certain moments, manifests through our affinities, tendencies, and abilities. Besides talents that seem to come out of nowhere, there are also instant connections with people. Have you ever met someone whose presence brought an immediate calm or affinity? Or, on the contrary, have you crossed paths with someone who triggered discomfort for no rational reason? From the reincarnation perspective, this sensation occurs when we reconnect with souls that have been our companions in other lives. Some describe feelings like it feels like we've known each other for a long time, but today is the first time we met. This kind of encounter can generate strong emotions or even the impression of picking up a conversation that was interrupted. There are stories of people who meet in completely ordinary situations, like in a supermarket line or a workplace, but feel a recognition that can't be explained by current interactions. In these cases, reincarnation emerges as a possible link that explains why two individuals form deep bonds in a short time. Some say they've found, in this present life, people with whom they shared significant events in previous existences, as if destiny is a giant board where these souls meet again to continue resolving issues or strengthening learning together. It may sound like a very broad concept, but many find comfort in realizing that human connections go beyond the boundaries of a single life. Recurring dreams are also seen as clues to other experiences. There are dreams so vivid that people wake up feeling like they've revisited familiar scenes, even though they don't associate them with any episode from childhood or adulthood. Some describe detailed places, period clothing, interactions with people speaking ancient languages or behaving in ways that don't match the present. Those studying the topic argue that during sleep, consciousness breaks free from limitations and can access memories stored in deeper layers. A repetitive dream, which pops up now and then, might be a reminder of a lesson that's still pending comprehension or of a significant event that left marks even today. Think of someone who dreams night after night of a medieval village, with precise details of buildings and routines that aren't part of any known movie or book. At first, the person might find it interesting, but over time, this type of dream raises questions. Why do I always see myself in this setting? Is this rooted in some ancestral memory? For some, it's just a product of imagination, but for others, every element of the dream has meaning, and reincarnation is one of the keys to deciphering it. The practice of jotting down dreams and reflecting on their themes may help uncover hints on how to deal with certain emotional aspects in the present. Of course, there's no universal consensus on these phenomena. Those who follow more skeptical strains question reincarnation, attributing these signs to psychological processes or coincidences. On the other hand, those who intensely experience these situations find a coherent answer in the hypothesis that the soul doesn't start from scratch with each new life. Regardless of concrete proof, the fact is that these reflections can help a person understand their identity, passions, and fears, creating a feeling of belonging to a story larger than the limited time between birth and death. You might have experienced some of these signs but never took the time to analyze them calmly. In many cases, the rush of everyday life causes these hints to be overlooked, as if they were irrelevant daydreams. Yet, when curiosity arises, it's natural to seek more information and exchange experiences with those who also perceive these mysteries. In some conversations, we discover that we're not alone. Someone you know might have experienced a striking déjà vu, recalled places that aren't part of their current life, or explained the origin of an irrational fear through the idea of something lived in the past. In daily life, many ordinary situations can trigger these memories. Sometimes it's a perfume you don't recognize but brings intense nostalgia. Other times, it's the sound of an instrument, a different landscape, or even an accent or way of speaking that evokes a distant memory. When that happens, it's like the soul whispers that something much bigger is going on. And even if you don't find absolute confirmation that these memories are from other lives, the reflection itself can be transformative, as it invites us to look within and pay more attention to our intuition. Living with the possibility that we are more than this body and this time broadens our perspective. If we truly bring with us lessons, mistakes, loves, and challenges from other eras, it means that each individual's personal history is much vaster than it seems. For some, this idea is comforting. It suggests that there's always time to grow, to heal, to reconnect, and to refine what hasn't been well understood. At the same time, it invites responsibility because if life is cyclical, everything we do likely generates consequences that extend beyond what we see today. If you've noticed that some of these signs resonate with your experiences, it might be a good idea to reflect on what this could mean for your current journey. Instead of seeing fears as mere obstacles with no roots, it's worthwhile to investigate whether they might be linked to something deeper that needs attention. Instead of ignoring that feeling of familiarity with someone, it could be interesting to nurture a dialogue and discover affinities that might stem from a reunion life has offered. And if your dreams keep telling stories from different times and places, why not pay more attention to those dream narratives? They might carry important messages for your growth. Of course, everyone has the freedom to interpret the topic of reincarnation in their own way. Some prefer a more scientific approach, investigating reports of children who seem to remember past lives. Others come from a religious or philosophical context, relying on sacred texts. And there are those who, even without a formal belief structure, find meaning in this possibility because they deeply feel that life isn't limited to the present moment. Whatever path you choose, the discussion about reincarnation often broadens horizons, sparking questions that aren't so common in our daily lives. In many stories, noticing these signs from other lives acts like a call for self-awareness. It's almost an urge that makes us want to dive into our essence, discover who we really are behind social labels, and seek spiritual connections that go beyond the surface. Some, starting from a simple feeling of déjà vu or an unusual talent, begin to study ancient philosophies and meditation practices, for example, finding answers that previously seemed out of reach. If at any point in this journey you notice something that really touches your heart, feel free to strengthen the bond with those who discuss these themes openly and respectfully. This way, you'll encounter new content that can stimulate your thinking and find space to share your own experiences without judgment. This exchange of experiences creates a network of people who also sense that our reality isn't just what we see. You might recall moments when you met someone and thought, wow, it feels like I've known this person for years. Or maybe you've had the opposite case where you simply didn't click, as if there was some unresolved history. Generally, we believe that these impressions are just the result of immediate likes or dislikes. But if we consider the possibility that these bonds transcend our current life, we can better understand why some relationships feel so deep or so challenging. Maybe reincarnation explains these emotional adjustments we carry. It's also interesting to note that, beyond mystical explanations, looking at the possibility of multiple lives can have a practical effect. It promotes empathy. When we see others as individuals who are also going through a variety of learnings, past and future, it becomes easier to respect their journey because we understand that everyone carries a complex story shaped over a long time. If we're all in cycles of learning, perhaps it's time to cultivate patience not just with our own failures but also with the limitations of those around us. On the other hand, reincarnation isn't just a free pass to repeat the same patterns indefinitely, thinking we'll have time in the future to fix things. On the contrary, many believe that the sooner we become aware of our spiritual responsibilities, the more we can evolve and avoid unnecessary pain. It's as if each life represents an opportunity for growth, where old debts resurface symbolically, whether in the form of fears, relationship struggles, or even the emergence of talents we need to develop. So, when you notice these signs, the suggestion is not to dismiss them as craziness or coincidence without meaning. This doesn't mean blindly embracing a belief, but rather keeping an open mind to understand that life can be much more complex than we imagine. If some people find explanation in reincarnation and it brings them peace and understanding, why not consider that possibility? Even if you don't arrive at a definitive conclusion, the inner journey that this search sparks can be enriching in itself. Thus, all the points discussed regarding inexplicable phobias, déjà vu, unique gifts or talents, instant connections, and recurring dreams can be seen as invitations to look beyond the obvious. If you feel a connection to these ideas, perhaps now is a good time to reflect on the coincidences that have occurred in your life, maybe even write down dreams or talk to close people who also notice similar signs. It's interesting to share stories and realize that we're not alone in this kind of experience. If this theme has brought you any insights and you feel motivated to revisit your memories and sensations, now might be a good time to take a small action that seems simple but makes a difference over time. By expressing your interest, you help us understand what sparks curiosity around these topics, and you allow more people with the same quest to find a place where all of this is discussed respectfully and engagingly. Feel free to leave a comment sharing any curious experience or a feeling that you've lived something before. It's always inspiring to read accounts from those who noticed these signs in everyday life and found possible explanations through the lens of reincarnation. Sometimes, a story that seems rare or strange could be very similar to what someone else has experienced, creating empathy and opening paths for even deeper reflections. By this point, you've likely gathered some thoughts about how these signs might be present in your life without you realizing it right away. Think about each of them practically. Is there a fear that you've never been able to explain? At any moment, have you experienced the feeling of knowing a place you visited for the first time? Is there a talent that emerged so naturally that even you are surprised? Did you meet someone who seemed to carry a story with you, even without having anything in common in this life? Have you noticed repeated dreams pointing to scenarios that aren't part of your daily life? These questions can help clear your mind and perhaps uncover valuable discoveries. If you enjoyed reflecting on this topic and want to keep receiving content related to spirituality and everything involving our essence, it's worth staying connected to this information source, so the next themes reach you seamlessly. Often, a little tip or new curiosity can spark significant inner transformations. Now, to wrap up without making it seem abrupt, it's worth emphasizing that each sign discussed here is an invitation to look within. Some people may feel a stronger connection to specific topics, while others notice different phenomena. The key is to keep an open mind and heart to the possibilities existence offers. If you feel that all of this makes sense, it would be great to continue following what we share. If you want to share your perspective or tell your experience, that's a fantastic way to expand the conversation. Finally, if throughout this video you felt a connection or sparked curiosity to further explore these mysteries of the soul, it's worth getting closer to those who are also on this quest. A simple gesture of engagement, like subscribing to the channel or leaving a brief comment, can open doors for enriching dialogues. You might mention, for example, a memorable déjà vu or a skill that came up without explanation. In this way, we create a support and sharing network where each person adds a piece to the puzzle of spirituality. After all, if we are beings who carry many stories, why not share those stories with others who feel equally intrigued?